Hi, everybody. It's Tim Constantine from the Washington Times. And joining me, as he does each and every week for America, David Bozell.
Hey,
Hi,
Tim.
David. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, it's the season of forgiveness.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing in May, Ave Maria, and so on. However, I know it's unusual that Joe Biden would twist or turn his Catholic faith, but he's using the word forgiveness in a way that I don't quite agree. They're talking about the forgiveness of student loans. Forgiveness seems like just poof, magically it's gone. What this is not forgiveness, it's a taxpayer bailout. You're paying this off, I'm paying this off. We're not forgiving anything, we're just shifting it.
I actually admire the president's get up and go, his gumption here. I really do. He has given the proverbial middle finger to the American taxpayer, to every blue-collar worker who decided that college was not going to be for him or her, to every stay-at-home mom. He has given them the proverbial finger to buy off a voting demographic, presumably this young voting demographic that supposedly, according to the press secretary just the other day, is just crumbling under this debt. The real irony for me on all of this student bailout stuff, Tim, the American system provides for bankruptcy, for using bankruptcy as a tool to get out from under debt if you can't pay it. The author of the bill that prevented students from declaring bankruptcy due to their student loans was Joe Biden, Senator Joe Biden. And here he comes 20-odd some years later and saying, I'm just going to relieve you of this debt. It is the political gumption I admire, I really do. How the Republicans will respond, if they decide to respond. I mean, they've been pretty quiet. So I suspect they'll just try to fan the flames of rage politically. But it's to just give the middle finger to folks who are struggling out there because of inflation that he created that's going to cause more inflation due to this bailout. I admire the guts that it's going to take.
I have three issues with it. One, he's giving the middle finger to the Supreme Court as well.
Yes, he
because
is. Yeah, he is.
They tried this in a little bit different format, but they tried to get the government to pay off these loans, and the Supreme Court said, you can't do that without congressional guidance. The second is it's the working guy, as you said, that is being stiffed here. The doctors and lawyers and people that are making $400 and $500 an hour now simply don't want to pay it off. So the guy who is the cop and the teacher can now pay it off for them. Because that's essentially what's happening. The bigger problem for me is this looks backwards. It doesn't change how the student loan program works at all. So if you're a kid that's 17, it doesn't change your picture at all. You've still got to figure out, how am I going to pay for college? And you've got to hope that, well, maybe 10 years from now, if I take out a student loan, there'll be some president that'll just magically make it go away.
I got a couple kids myself that are knocking on college's doorsteps. They're in high school. Am I going to get bailed out here? Am I going to get are they going to get college for free? I mean, it's essentially the stepping stone to this, right? This could be a new Democrat platform. Well, it has actually not really new. They've been banging their pots and pans about this for quite some time, but just free college for the whole country. And this is how the Democrats start to set the table for these types of initiatives going forward. And like I said, I do admire his willingness to use the executive order pen in creative ways that Republicans just aren't creative enough to think about that.
Contrary to the Constitution.
And they're contrary to the Constitution. He sticks his middle finger up to the Supreme Court. It's a huge risk. Whether it even happens is 50-50, but he gets to enjoy some political wins. Consider, though, you've got major Democrat donor base funding a lot of these protests across the country, from George Soros to Pritzker, to Rockefeller. I mean, this is according to Politico. Don't take my word for it. This is according to Politico. They're funding these protests on college campuses across the country so that the kids can take a loan to go to college, to get a free 3 square meals a day, get an education, then to protest at their college not get charged with anything, and then get essentially paid to do it by the donor base and have their tuition wiped off the books. I mean, it's an amazing, just an amazing grift by the entire left-wing young base.
Quick side question before we go. Will the protests continue? College is out now. This last couple of weeks were finals weeks. It's over. They're out for the summer.
Yeah.
Will there be protests this summer prior to the political conventions, or do we have 8 weeks of peace?
I think they're going to find inflection points, sporting events. They got the NBA finals coming up. You have NHL finals coming up. They're going to find those types of inflection points to sort of thrust themselves into a big crowd. Don't be surprised to see a bunch of protests at summer music convention season.
Really?
Yeah. Look, it's a hotbed for all this stuff, right? It's young people. The big, there's East Coast version in Delaware, the West Coast, Coachella in California. That's where I think you could see some real action with regards to these protests.
My son forwarded me a great video the other day on Instagram that had a young man on college campuses asking the protesters questions like, from what river to what sea?
Right, I saw that.
And of course they had no idea, and asked them, what are the boundaries of Gaza? No idea. Oh, they don't exist, what? How many civilians were killed on October 7th? What? They had absolutely no idea what they were protesting. They were just out having a party.
And we paid for them not to know that, essentially.
For America, you are David Bozell. For the Washington Times, I'm Tim Constantine. Thanks for joining us.